Welcome back. Good to see y'all.
Um, we've got a bit of a shorter one today. We've only got 3 sessions for the night, so we're gonna move pretty quick. Unfortunately, I was trying to deal with some technical difficulties beforehand, otherwise I would have gotten us earlier on. But I will be on much longer the next 3 days, so we're already a third done. Feel free to say hi if you're just joining in. Let me know what you're studying, and if you were just studying with me, let me know how that first session was out of 10. Hi, Lesh. How are you guys? Kent, I was wondering your status going into med school, got your first year GPA. I can give you like the rough estimates in a sec. I'm good, Lesh. How are you? A little tired today. It is kind of late, but not too bad. Kent, I had a... I don't want to like give all the numbers on the channel, but like GPA was... GPA was around a little above the averages for the matriculant. So instead of looking at mine, maybe perhaps I can link you something better. I can link you the AAMC's has a page of AAMC matriculant data. Hey Vicky, ACCA, how's that going? What is ACCA? 6.5? Yeah, I'll give it like a 7. I am panicking because I am very behind. I still have 3 lectures to do. I thought I would be well done with them tonight, but it is no bueno. But we will probably have to study longer tomorrow to catch up. Oh, sorry, it's not AAMC, is it? It runs med school admissions upper undergrad. Is it AMCAS? Oh man, due today. Dang, felt that. Good luck, Lesh. Hi, Black Cat. Got a 6.0? Oh, a GPA. I wish, bro. Oh, man. No, I wasn't that cracked, unfortunately. U of M also was a bit of a grade deflator for schools. Their math and chem courses were designed to tank our GPAs a little bit. But that's why, I figured music's a bit loud. Let me turn it down, thank you. Or you know what it might be? It might just be my mic is like really far from my mouth. Oh, I can turn on the music. Let's do that actually. There we go. Sorry. Thank you for letting me know, Elian. Certified chartered accountant. Oh, you're doing accounting now. Nice. Halfway through, gonna speed run it. Yeah, that's fair. What time is it over there for you guys, Lesh? Also, give me 1 second. I'm looking for it in the background. Let's see. 2020 through 2024. Oh, here you go. Okay. They have like they usually have like a really nice chart. It's like everything. Why can't I find summary sheet? There should be a matriculant summary sheet. Let's see if I can find it. Current facts data, is it 2024? Let's see. Maybe not. We're about to find out. Oh, don't freeze on me, please. Dang, maybe not. That's really annoying. Oh, okay, so it's the afternoon. Oh, and you have till midnight. How long is the assignment? Also, what are you working on? What's the assignment? Is it an essay? Is it like a case review? Where is this? I'm losing my mind, I swear. By MCAT, GPA? No, MSTAR is good, but MSTAR is like for each school. There's like a really nice sheet that the AAMC pushes out every year. That's like a summary sheet for like just getting into med school. Let me see if I can find it. Like, it's gotta be here somewhere. Summary sheet. I know they have it. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Is it the AMCAS? Oh, AMCAS. There we go. AMCAS application cycle numbers for 2024. Here we go. I found it. That one. I put it in there. So you can take a look at that. I think that's a pretty good idea of what averages are. Although those MCAT numbers are definitely off, but the GPA looks right for the enrollees. Yeah. 17. Huh. That's interesting. I know somebody in my class has started. No, not 17. 17 is crazy to start med school. It's 1,200 words. Okay, that's not too bad. But for property, just a legal memo. Property is the one that's like really boring, right? If I remember from you law folks telling me before. Maybe not. Have your 12th exam going, studying like 8 hours a day. I want to know, is it okay to sleep only 6 hours? I would try to sleep more, Vicky, but like, you know, I think 6 to 8 hours. It depends on how, some people like 6, some people like 8, but It's whatever you feel comfortable with. If you're sleeping 6 and you feel comfortable getting 6, then yeah, that's totally fine, I think. I try to sleep a little more during exam seasons because your brain doesn't really synthesize information unless you let it sleep. That's what I've found. Yeah, it's a stats thingy, Black Hat. Yeah, that's what it was. I just couldn't remember the name of it. It's just the AMCAS application cycle number. So it is... Does it have this stuff on here? So yeah, like there's 50,000 applicants last year, 22,005 got accepted. And average GPA for accepted was 379, which isn't bad. I believe the average science GPA was like 3.6, high 3.5s, low 3.6 as well for accepted. Yeah, a lot less men going into medicine now too. But that's just, I think, because there's less applicants that are men, right? Yeah, 21,000 are only men now. Men are kind of steering away from applying to medicine, which is interesting. What else do we got? I think those MCAT scores are off. They might be accurate. Actually, I guess if you include all the schools, those MCAT scores are kind of accurate, but that might include the DO schools as well. But I thought the AMCAS doesn't do the DO stuff, so it might be wrong. I think the average, well, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm skewed because my school has a higher average, which is annoying. Let's see, pretty good, a lot of complicated parts. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That makes a lot of sense. I feel that. That's like medicine. What am I working on today? I've got an exam on Friday. It is on pathology, which is like how can your body screw up today? And then like there's a bunch of like cell bio stuff, and then immunology, so your immune system, and then cancer, and then all the drugs for cancer and all the treatments for cancer. So it's a pretty heavy exam. Apparently this is like the #1. Last year, apparently more than half the class failed this exam, so that's a little scary because I'm already behind, but we're gonna make it through. Minimum GPA to join med school there in the US. It's weird, Alian. So like, there's technically no minimum GPA. So assuming we're talking about, so there's two types of schools in the United States. You have MD schools and DO schools. They basically are qualified to do the same thing, but MD schools have a little more prestige with their name because like they've been around a little bit longer. They basically train you to do the same thing though. But MD schools are more competitive. So I think the average would make more sense to talk about. I think the average for MD schools is like a 3.8 out of 4.0. So that would be like mostly A's with the occasional A-, B+, but mostly A's. They don't really have a set minimum. Like there are people who have lower GPAs, but then they'll just go to like schools that are a little easier to get into, so to speak. But for the most part, I think they recommend you apply with around a 3.8 something or higher if you can. What's DACA? DACA is the Deferred American Citizen Act. So folks who are like not folks who are, shoot, don't hold me on this. I don't remember the exact legal definition, but it's like folks who are DACA citizens. I think it's like if your parents are born. Okay, yeah, deferred action for childhood arrival. So basically, if your parents came as migrants, but they might not have had legal citizenship, and you were brought to the United States, it's a quick path for you to get citizenship because you grew up in the United States. But I don't know if that's still ongoing right now, given the current administration. So I don't know if they. I know they had. Okay, so 40 were with DACA. So yeah, so like 40 were likely children of folks who immigrated without papers. That's not true, Vicky. I think Lesh is doing law. A lot of folks here are doing law. A lot of people are doing tech as well. I think it's just like a good chunk are also medicine as well. So, you know, it's a nice mix. It's a lot of people who have to study, right? Low 475. Yeah, I don't know a school that would take you with a 475. It has to be like, you have to have like cured cancer or something if you got a 475. There's no way. You guys have an entrance exam there, so don't really care about your grade in high school. Okay, that makes sense. We have one as well. It's called the MCAT over here. So for us, it's a little more nuanced to get into med school. So it's not just like, oh, you need this score, and then the top blah, blah, blah percent of this score will get into med school. They look at everything. They balance your, like, the most important things are your grades and your MCAT, which is that entrance exam score. But then if you do those, even if you do really well on those two, if you don't have clinical experience, research, shadowing, and just like overall community initiative, they won't accept you. They want a very well-rounded individual or somebody who's very impressive all around. So you got to be able to do grades and be able to do life at the same time. Yeah, 475 applicants. They've got to have like a Nature publication. Black Hat or Hannah, sorry, I'm like totally in streaming mode today. Thank you, Lesh. I appreciate it. It relates to pink. What are we at? It looks like votes are for blue today. Might do it on the last session, but that's That's what we'll do. Yeah, 3.8. Yeah, it is pretty competitive here. Leon, it is like I think a 3.8 would be like you get a 4 most semesters and you can maybe get like 2 or 3 Bs. And like to get an A in college, except for a few classes that are curved, A for most college classes is about 90+%, and then like Bs are 80s, Cs are 70s. But like except for like organic chemistry or physics or stuff like that where they curve the score because obviously nobody's getting consistent 90 pluses on those exams. They're made to like have averages around 50s and then they curve it up. Okay, you guys, we're on session 2, so we've only got 2 more for the night. My eyes are drying out, I apologize. Yeah, I'm gonna leave the camera where it is. I'm taking some notes right now, so I'll just do that and you guys can go ahead and get started. Good luck, y'all. Here we go. This is session 2 out of 3. We are already a third of the way done. Good luck.
Alright, welcome back everybody. That was session number 2. Let me lower the music, it is really loud, isn't it? So yeah, we're done with 2/3 of the night. We got one more session to go. Feel free to say hi. Let me know how that last session was, and if you're just joining in, let me know what you're studying tonight. We got 9.5 minutes. This is actually our last short break of the day, and then we'll have our last session of the night. I'll probably give that one like a kind of tired. Definitely phasing in and out. I'll probably give it like a 6 out of 10. I might go grab a little bit of caffeine. I know it's late, but it should be okay. Hopefully. Me wondering why I have insomnia problems. Also me grabbing caffeine at midnight. Oh no. How's the paper coming along? It was okay. A little tired, definitely. 12:30 at night, which is, I guess I didn't sleep well that last night. That's probably why. EP, me too. It's okay. We got one more hour. Or I gotta do one more hour. I gotta finish this Anki deck and I gotta start reviewing some previous stuff. I have 1,600 Anki cards overdue, so that's just not happening before Friday. So I gotta prioritize on what's high yield and what's low yield right now. You know what? I'm gonna go run out real quick. I'm gonna go get a quick can of some Diet Mountain Dew. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Feel free to say hi. Feel free to chat with each other. We're back. We're back. Do I like Chappelle Rowan? I don't know who that is. Is that a musician? Let's see. Oh, she is a musician. I've never listened to anything from her. What genre is she? Pop? Strange. I've just never ran across her stuff. What's popular from her? No, not at 12:30. No Monster right now. That's a AM or 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., maybe 7 p.m. at the latest, not midnight. Diet Mountain Dew only has like 70 milligrams of caffeine. And I like watch how much caffeine. I know if I get like, I'll metabolize to 70 milligrams in like half an hour. It'll be gone by the end of the hour. Monster only lasts me like 2-3 hours now. So what I'll typically do is I'll like have a Monster. I'll start fresh. I'll try to not use much my first session, or I might just have coffee in the morning, or I might just honestly, I'll start with a Monster sometimes. And then if I need one later, I'll drink one in the afternoon, and then I'll like finish off with like something a little bit less than caffeine, like a Diet Mountain Dew or something. Try to stay under like 250 a day max if I'm studying like crazy. Only around exam season. I think exam season I'm like probably pushing 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine a day. But outside of that, I probably stay around 100 to 200. It just depends on how much studying I need. There we go. Awake. Genera pop. It's not really my jam style of music, but I might check it out at some point. I think I'm looking at like her discography. I think I've heard Red Wine Supernova. It's not really my jam. They're like Babe and Hot to Go. Huh. I might have heard those in passing. I do remember Super Hot Red. One of my friends made me listen to it and I was just not a fan. Also, we are lagging out, aren't we? Dang, is that lag that bad today? I feel like there's nothing that should be lagging. It's pretty late, so it looks like I'm good on my end mostly, hopefully. I don't know. YouTube being YouTube. I finally ran a wired connection from the camera to my computer, so it's a lot more stable now too, which is nice. But now I have a 20-foot like monstrous cable running around my room. This is just me trying to avoid spending money to buy a camera at this point. It's got to happen at some point, but I'm too broke for that right now in med school and cameras are pricey, and I have a motorcycle that needs fixing. Am I tall? Depending on what you define as tall. I am roughly about 6 flat. I'm 5'11" and a half if we want to get into specifics. Which is, a half is very important. It rounds up, you know. So yeah, I guess I'm taller than average, but I'm not like 6'3". Yep, Lesh, we'll have a really long one tomorrow probably. I definitely need to catch up. I have class from like 1 to 3. And then I'll probably be on like after that, unless I need to hit the gym. I skipped the gym today too. I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll wake up early tomorrow. I say that every day. That never happens. That's just not gonna happen. We'll figure it out. I'll try to be on by 3 because I would like to study from like 3 to 1 if I could, or like 4 to 1 maybe. That's like a 9-hour session, and then Wednesday and Thursday I'm gonna run 12s or 14s because I need to. So we'll have long runs the next couple of days. I'll be here though. My exam is Friday, so I'll probably not be. I'll take this weekend off from streaming, but I'm working on long form content that I want to edit this weekend, so I'll try to push that out over the next week. All right, y'all. Last session of the night. Crazy. So, I'm just gonna move the camera so you guys can see my flashcard, so I stay productive too. All right, y'all. Here we go. Good luck. And let's do this. Last session of the night. All right, welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys had a good last session there. But yeah, that's it. We're all done for the day. Feel free to say hi. I'll just be packing up in the background, and then we'll go ahead and call it a night. Let me know how that last session was, and if you were just joining in, let me know what you were studying today, or what you're gonna study today if your day's just getting started. I'll be here for like mostly 10 minutes, and then I need to get to bed, and then we will have a nice much longer session tomorrow, hopefully, because I am abhorrently behind. Oops. But in the meanwhile, yeah, if you need to go, thank you for coming. Join the Discord if you're not in the Discord, and if you are in the Discord, feel free to say hi in the off hours. Schedule is updated for the entire week, but I will be here a lot for the next couple of days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday I have an exam, so I will take Friday, Saturday, and likely Sunday off, and then I'll be back on Monday probably. Cramming. Yeah, me too, don't worry. I am trying to figure out what I know and what I do know and what I don't know right now. So that's what I was doing at the end there was like less flashcards because I feel like I memorize the flashcards now by accident instead of memorizing the content. So I'm kind of having chat drill me on like high yield step 1 based stuff to see if I understand immunology or not. 17 break session. I mean, you still got more than half the session done. So that's not bad. Is it ideal? Maybe not, but it's not terrible. I'm gonna drop my pen. Here we go. Just getting started, that's fair. I mean, you've already been at it all day, so can't blame you, right? What do you got today, more nephro? Great, I'm like awake now. This is a problem. Ugh, it's okay. I'll probably be like dead tired in about 15 minutes. Almost tempted to start another session, but that'd be insane, because then I would be finished at 2:30 and I'm already not retaining anything. I feel like Anki is slowly killing me, and it's also not helping right now, which is a problem. Guys in a chronic kidney disease, not too bad. The meds I imagine are pretty bad. I'm still like stuck with Still stuck with whatchamacallit, chemotherapy drugs a little bit, and then I got to do more immunotherapy drugs as well. I'm got to catch up the last 2 lectures tomorrow, and then I'll be all caught up. And then I have 1,600 or something ridiculous review on key cards that I'm not gonna do. I'm just gonna do the lectures I forgot and just kind of see whatever I can get done. I think UWorld is more important for me at this point. Skip class and study more tonight. No, tomorrow's gonna be like a review class, sorta. So it'll probably be helpful for my exam on Friday. I probably should go. I always find class for me these sorts of classes because my classes are less lecture-y and more like worksheets in groups, and my groups are pretty good. We kind of are good at explaining it to each other. I usually find it really helpful. So I usually like to go to class and figure things out with people. And then the other thing is too, I don't realize what I don't know or that I don't know stuff until I go to class. And then I do the worksheet and I'm like, shoot, I didn't even realize I needed to know this and this and this and this. Or I'm like, oh, I thought I knew this and this and this, and I definitely do not know that. But it should be pretty quick. The question is, can I wake up early enough to hit the gym tomorrow, or am I going to be on my butt all day, which would be really annoying. So we will see. Really would like to hit the gym because that helps my focus a lot when I can go consistently. I feel like I'm more restless if I'm not going, and then it just becomes a nightmare to try to study. I'll be on tomorrow from regardless, I think I should be on tomorrow from no later than 4 p.m. Eastern Standard, and then I will be on pretty late. I'll probably stay up till like 1 again. And then the days after, I will skip the gym for a couple days, and I will definitely try to run 12s to 14s on Wednesday and Thursday. I guess Thursday not as much because I hate that we have morning exams, honestly. It's nice to get it out of the way, but I'm so tired. I feel like I would actually genuinely see like a 5% increase in my score if exams were at like noon. Sounds good, Lush. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Good luck with your assignment. Hope you can get it in on time. Here, Kazuna, welcome. Good to have you here. I don't think I've seen you on the channel before. It's nice to meet you. Where are you from? What are you studying? Or maybe I haven't seen you in a while. I don't think I have, though. Oh, okay. This isn't your first time here. That's all good. No worries. Doing GCSEs from the UK? Nice. Is that that's your like A levels, right? Or like your AP scores or IB scores or whatever the equivalent, right? I'm not super familiar with the UK system, so you'll have to forgive me, but I am very curious. So that's like the high school end exams, correct? And are those used for you guys to get into university? All right, you guys. It's the high school diploma. Okay. Below A level GCSE is it? Oh, okay. I understand. I understand. Okay. I'm curious. So is it like, hmm. Okay. So I'll explain the American system and then you can translate it to me into what it looks like in the UK for you guys. So in the United States, we have like, so you would do high school typically from year 9 to year 12. So you would finish high school around the age of like 17, 18. And then in year 11 and year 12, we do two things. We take an exam called the SAT, which is like the standardized admission testings for university, and then we also have our like class scores, which is our GPA. And like schools, we also like have, so in 11th or 12th you take that, and then in 12th grade or 12th year you apply for university in the beginning, and then in 11th and 12th also a lot of schools here have the options for, we call them AP exams, or we also do the IB exam. I know UK is also big on IB. I did the IB program when I was in high school, but we take those exams at the end of year 12, and those don't count towards our admissions, or like college or universities will see that we took those classes and they'll like boost our application a little bit, or like make us look, if we take harder classes, it makes our application look better. Our applications are a little more well-rounded, right? It's about like clubs, sports, but like I mean like SAT and GPA are the most important, and then they look at what you did outside of school, like your clubs, your sports, your volunteering, etc. So you apply in the beginning of year 12, you get accepted in the end of year 12, and then after year 12, you start at university. And university is typically a 4-year bachelor's program here. Is it similar in the UK? Or do you guys have to take like GCSE to get into A levels? Are A levels like college/university level courses? So for us, AP or IB courses are like college level courses, right? We could take them in high school and then we would get university credit for them. Is that how A levels work? Or do you take, like, I guess what scores get you into university? Is it A levels? Or is it the GCSE? And what year do you guys do A levels? Is that like year 12 as well? Or do you guys go up to like year 13 or something? Sorry, I know that was a lot of questions. I'm just very curious because I hear these terms a lot. I'm just never familiar with them. Okay, I see. So it's a mix. Okay, gotcha. Oh, okay, so you guys have a year 12 and a year 13. Okay, that makes way more sense. So do you guys finish, I guess how old are you guys typically, or like if you're like a normal student and you haven't skipped any grades or you weren't pulled back any grades, what age would you roughly finish year 13? Would it be 17 or 18 years old, or would it be like 19, 18, 19? But that makes sense. So your A levels are basically like our AP. We call them AP Advanced Placement, or like IB International Baccalaureate. Like basically college level courses where you get those like things. Okay, so 17, 18. Okay, so I think your guys' year 13 is then just the same as our year 12. But we don't count, I think it might be different because, do you guys have kindergarten in the United Kingdom? You guys don't get pulled back a year. Okay, it just continues. I got you. I just meant like if somebody like fails a course, do they repeat the year? In the United States, if you failed, like let's say you failed your 10th grade, you would have to do your 10th grade again, right? So we have like kindergarten and then we have years 1 through 12. So it might just be the same as you guys, and you guys just start, instead of kindergarten, you guys just start at 1. Because we go kindergarten and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It might just be the same thing. Okay, if that's the case, then they might be more similar. Take care, Hannah. Have a good night. Get some rest. And I'll be on tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow as well. Oh, you guys call kindergarten nursery. So we also have nursery. It's like before kindergarten. So we have When you're like 4, you go to preschool. Not everybody goes to preschool, but most people in the United States go to preschool. I guess it's the same as foundations or nursery. And then when you're 5, you start kindergarten. And then when you're 6, roughly 6 or 7, you start first grade. So it might just be like, I'm thinking it's just that we have an extra name, but it's the same amount of time. That's really cool. Okay, so you guys' systems are very similar. Oh no, you're good. I know. It's very confusing. So like, you got a baby. Baby is like just chilling from 0 to 4. 4, he gets thrown into preschool. Oh, okay, so okay, nursery, then foundation. How old are the kids when they start foundation? Because for us, it's 0 to 4, you're at home or maybe in daycare or whatever, but that's not really school, right? And then at 4, you would start preschool if you're going to preschool. It's not a public education in preschool. I think it's still private in the United States. And then in kindergarten, you're age 5, and that's when the public education system starts. You start at age 5, and then like after kindergarten, you go to first grade. Okay, like 4 to 5 for foundation. Okay, I got it. So foundation is preschool, and in kindergarten, our kindergarten is your guys' first grade. And our first grade is your second. That's why you guys finish at year 13 and we finish at year 12. Because we just have an extra name. But it's the same thing essentially. Okay. No, I understand now. That makes a lot more sense. Sorry, I know that was like stupidly confusing, but I totally get that now. And then so you guys are like us, basically. We're in 11 and 12, we take our AP or IB courses, which is when you guys take your A levels. But you guys have an exam to take A levels. You guys have to take your GCSEs to get into A levels, right? That's what I'm understanding correctly. That's the interesting part to me, that you guys have to take an exam to take A levels. Because over here, you just kind of go off teacher recommendation. If you're good enough for like an AP or IB course, a teacher will just recommend you for that course, and then you can go take it. Okay, that makes more sense. Gotcha. That's cool. That's interesting. That sounds way more stressful, though. Yikes. But I guess your guys' GCSE is similar to our SAT, then. If it's a standard, is that a national exam, the GCSE? I remember learning about this at one point because I was just for fun looking at like what Oxford and Cambridge wanted. Because I know that they had very strict IB score requirements. Like you needed a certain score on the IB exams to get into Oxford and Cambridge. But the problem is you would apply in our, I guess your guys' is year 13, our year 12, same thing, and your last year of high school. And then you would have to take your scores at the very end. And then basically if you didn't get a high enough score, they would just take your acceptance back. That was like the big thing that we found. Yeah, I can't even, yeah, it sounds very stressful. But good luck. You'll do great, I'm sure. That's cool. Okay. I understand the UK system now. That makes a lot more sense. It's very interesting. So, I guess I'll ask this another time, but it's just interesting to see the American education mentality versus like, because I know that most of the world goes off the UK. I know the States and Canada are very similar, and I think Australia is like the States as well now. But for the most part, the rest of the world follows the UK type system, I believe, except China and India. Even India is similar to Britain or the UK. But because over here, we're a little more, our education is a little more, I guess, in the Nordic countries. The Nordic countries do their own thing. The Nordic countries have their own thing entirely, but that makes sense for them. I think we're a little less score oriented than the UK, it seems, maybe. Like scores are very, very important here as well, but universities here want to know that you can get good scores and like do things outside of school. So like good universities here would typically, you would need like a top like 10% or whatever, no higher, probably like top 10, top 5% SAT score, and then do well in like your grades. But then also on top of that, you need to be like you need to like be presidents of clubs and like be an athlete and be a leader or volunteer in your community. And it's like a lot more well-rounded. Depends on the university, of course. But like where I went, was my state school was University of Michigan, and it's fairly competitive. So that's what I had to do in high school was like on top of taking that stuff, I would also like I played tennis and I was team captain for tennis at that time. And I also ran track, and then I was in like 4 or 5 clubs and competitions, science competitions, um, on top of school. So that's how like it works over here, which is very interesting. It was less about like scores were like a prerequisite almost, if that makes sense. Because I know the UK is probably a lot more like scores based. If you get good A levels, I imagine you could probably get into Oxford or Cambridge, right? I'm going to wait for your answer, and then I'm going to cut myself off so that everybody can go back to work and get some rest. Okay, so it's starting to go that way. I gotcha. Makes sense. I figured, yeah. At this point, it's so competitive with everything that like in the United States, the trend was like so many people, like the upper echelon of students here, are like just so like good at grades and like SATs and whatever, blah blah blah, that you need a way to differentiate them. So like Ivy League schools like Harvard, Yale, Stanford, da da da, over here are looking for folks who are like international champions of random. It's very much extracurricular because people just assume that those students are already good at the grade. So over here, even if you get like top marks, like for example, I had like perfect scores. I had a perfect GPA in high school, and I had like a top 1% SAT score. It didn't matter. Like I didn't get into Harvard because I was not an international champion in one of those science competitions, or like I didn't like, cure cancer. Obviously an exaggeration, but like that's what those schools are looking for. That's really cool though. It is very interesting to see. All right, y'all. I'm going to cut it off there so you guys can get back to studying. So thank you guys for coming. You guys are great. You guys are awesome. Like I said, I will be on tomorrow all day, probably in the afternoon my time. Check the study schedule for your time zones. Everything's updated for the entire week. If you're not in the Discord, come join the Discord. Yeah, it is wild. It's very hyper competitive here. It's really bad. Mental health and students in the United States is really tanking really fast because, well, you can imagine. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. I will see you all tomorrow. I hope you all have a great day and a great night.